They say the woman who lives alone must be lonely, that she must be broken, abandoned, too complicated to love, or too proud to let herself be loved. But what if she is none of those things? What if the woman who chooses solitude is not failing at life, but answering a deeper call that most people are too afraid to hear? Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But what he didn't say, at least not directly, is that this becoming often demands a sacred withdrawal, a rupture from the ordinary, a fierce exile from everything we were told a woman should be. And this exile, it doesn't begin with power. It begins with pain, because the first truth we rarely speak about women who live alone is this: her solitude was not her first choice. It was her soul's cry for space. Not to escape love, but to find something deeper than performance. To stop being needed so she could start being real. She didn't plan this life. It arrived like a storm after a long drought, uninvited, destructive, and utterly necessary. This woman once believed in fairy tales, in soulmates, in happily ever afters that came wrapped in wedding rings and shared addresses. But something shattered that story. Maybe it was betrayal, maybe abandonment, maybe just a slow erosion of self. But at some point, the dream she was handed became a prison she couldn't breathe inside. She didn't leave because she hated men. She left because she couldn't keep betraying herself to keep them, because she saw what no one talks about, that some forms of togetherness are more isolating than silence, that it's possible to share a bed with someone who never truly sees you, and that in pretending to be half of a whole, she was slowly disappearing. When she finally chose to live alone, it wasn't a decision made in confidence. It was made in ruins, in the ashes of what she thought her life would be, and that's what people don't see. They see her peace now, but they don't see the nights she screamed into her pillow, wondering if she would ever feel safe again. They don't see the rituals she built out of broken pieces, but something alchemical happens in solitude, something terrifying, beautiful, and raw. The absence of distraction becomes the presence of self, and in that stillness something sacred begins to wake up, not the version of her she performed for approval, but the one who existed before the world told her who to be, the wild one, the wise one, the woman beneath the woman. She begins to remember things she forgot, like how to listen to her own intuition, how to dance in the kitchen for no reason, how to protect her energy like a sacred flame, and most of all, how to choose herself without guilt, not as an act of defiance, but of devotion. Because solitude, for the awakened woman, is not loneliness, it is initiation. They'll say she's too independent, that she doesn't need anyone, but that's not true. She needs deeply. She just no longer needs to abandon herself to be loved. She no longer needs to shrink, dim, or soften her truth for someone else's comfort. Her aloneness is not an absence. It is an altar, a place where her soul and the divine can meet. This is not the woman who gave up. This is the woman who finally stopped giving herself away. And in doing so, she found something most people spend their entire lives searching for: her own presence, her own rhythm, her own voice. And once you hear that voice, you can never go back to silence again. You can never unsee the woman you've become. But of course, this path is not easy. It's filled with ghosts, with old versions of her that still whisper, still ache, still wonder what could have been. There are nights when her skin misses touch, when her heart remembers softness, when her body grieves the absence of shared breath. But even in that longing, she knows this path is hers. This solitude is sacred. Sometimes she watches other women perform the script she left behind, the perfect wife, the pleaser, the martyr, and part of her aches, not with envy, but with recognition. She knows that mask. She wore it well, until it began to suffocate her, until the weight of pretending became heavier than the fear of being alone. She doesn't hate men, she just no longer makes them her god, no longer defines herself through their gaze, no longer begs to be chosen, because she's already chosen by something greater, by the wild intelligence that lives in her bones, by the mystery that pulled her out of the known and into the sacred unknown. She has learned that aloneness is not emptiness. It's a kind of fullness most people never touch, because they're too busy chasing validation to feel their own soul, too distracted by noise to hear the song inside them. But she hears it now, and it guides her, like moonlight on black, water like a compass in the dark. They say she is intimidating, hard to read, too much, but that's only because they can't categorize her, can't control her, can't seduce her with shallow promises. She's not looking for a savior. She's not asking to be rescued. She's not trying to be understood. She is simply being, and that, in a world built on performance, is radical. So, no, the woman who lives alone is not broken. She is breaking spells, generational ones, cultural ones, personal ones. She is dismantling everything that told her she was only worthy if someone else said so. And in that dismantling, she is building something rare, a life rooted in truth, not in roles. She walks through the world now, not as someone waiting to be chosen, but as someone who already belongs to herself, to the earth, to the silence between words. Her power is not loud, but you feel it when she enters the room. It's in her gaze, in her posture, in the calm certainty that she no longer needs to prove anything. She is her own home, and that perhaps is the most radical thing of all, that a woman can be whole without being possessed, that she can be deeply loving without being in love, that she can nurture others without emptying herself, in a world that conditions women to serve, to give, to sacrifice her very existence. As sovereign is an act of defiance. People will project onto her. They'll assume she's bitter, unfulfilled, or secretly yearning for a man to complete her, because that's what we've been taught, that a woman's fulfillment lies in partnership. But what if that's only one path? What if the soul, in its infinite wisdom, sometimes calls us to a different initiation? This woman is not running from connection. She's redefining it. She's creating bonds that honor her truth, not her trauma. Relationships that are reciprocal, not transactional. She no longer settles for crumbs and calls it love. She's tasted the banquet of self-respect, and she knows what true nourishment feels like. There is a purity in her solitude now, a clarity that couldn't exist when she was entangled in roles, obligations, and expectations. Alone, she has met her shadows. She's danced with her grief. She's forgiven herself for the ways she once abandoned her own heart. This woman isn't afraid of darkness anymore. She's made it her teacher. And in that darkness, something ancient awakened. The archetype of the wise woman, the crone, the sorceress, the mystic. Call her what you will. She is the one who remembers, who sees beyond illusion, who has touched the edge of despair and found beauty there. Her wisdom doesn't come from books. It comes from surviving herself. People underestimate her because she doesn't flaunt her transformation. She carries it quietly, like a sacred ember. Her life may seem simple from the outside, but within her, galaxies are shifting. Every choice she makes is intentional. Every boundary she holds is an act of self-reverence. She is not hiding. She is refining. She used to beg for permission, to speak, to rest, to exist. Now she takes up space without apology. Not as an act of aggression, but of authenticity. Her presence no longer asks, "Am I too much?" Instead, it declares, "I am enough." And that declaration echoes through everything she touches, like a tuning fork of truth. Sometimes she cries, not from weakness, but from release, because even a sacred path can be heavy. Even freedom has its costs. She cries for the girl she used to be, for the love she never received, For the years, she spent contorting herself into shapes that fit other people's molds. But then she breathes and remembers she is not that girl anymore. She is not invincible. She is not always graceful, but she is whole. And in a world that profits off our self-doubt, wholeness is the ultimate rebellion. She has stopped seeking outside what she now cultivates within. She is no longer a mirror for someone else's desire. She is the flame, the source, the sacred fire that cannot be extinguished. She no longer lives for the future or in the wounds of the past. She is present, awake, here. And that presence is her medicine. It's what allows her to hold space for others without losing herself, to witness suffering without being consumed by it, to love fiercely without attachment. She is not free from pain, but she is free from illusion. This woman, who walks alone, is not waiting for her life to begin. She is living it now, fully, deeply, courageously. She plants gardens not to impress, but to heal. She sings not to perform, but to feel. She rests not because she's lazy, but because her body is sacred. Her life is a ritual, and every act, no matter how small, is an offering. And yes, sometimes she misses being held. She misses the intimacy of partnership, the quiet joy of sharing life, but she doesn't confuse that longing with lack. She knows she is complete. She knows love is not something she has to chase. It is something she already is. And from that place she attracts what aligns. She is not perfect, but she is aligned with her truth, with her path, with the voice that whispers, even when the world is loud, "You are exactly where you're meant to be." She listens, she trusts, and she keeps walking, not because she is fearless, but because she is faithful. Faithful to the woman she is, still becoming. When people ask why she lives alone, she no longer justifies, she smiles. Because how do you explain to someone that solitude saved you, that in your aloneness you met God, that through silence you heard your soul? She knows. They may never understand. And that's okay. Not everything sacred needs to be explained. She is no longer the woman who needed someone to complete her. She is the woman who came home to herself. And in doing so, she unlocked a sacred code, one buried beneath centuries of obedience, silence, and sacrifice. It wasn't taught to her. It was remembered through fire, through grief, through the alchemy of solitude. There are moments when she watches the world and feels like a ghost, invisible to those still playing the old games. She sees the illusions, the chase for validation, the endless performance, the craving for approval. She used to be in that dance, but now she watches with the eyes of someone who has awakened from a spell. This doesn't mean she's above it. It means she chose to leave the stage, to unlearn the choreography of compliance, to sit in the audience of her own life, observing with reverence, curiosity, and sometimes sorrow. Because once you've seen the truth, pretending becomes a kind of soul death, and she has died enough times already. She no longer chases love. She invites it, quietly, fiercely, and without compromise. She's not interested in being everything for someone. She's interested in being everything to herself. And if someone can walk beside her fully without trying to fix or tame her, they are welcome. But she will never beg for presence again. Her softness is no longer weakness. It is power wrapped in tenderness. Her tears are not instability. They are sacred waters that cleanse her path. Her silence is not absence. It is communion with the divine. Everything she was once shamed for has become her greatest strength. Because she reclaimed it, named it, honored it. She stopped measuring her worth by relationship status, productivity, or how much she's needed. Her worth is now non-negotiable, rooted, embodied, alive. It lives in her breath, in her gaze, in the unshakable sense that she belongs here, not because she fits in, but because she exists. And that is enough. Some will fear her, others will desire her, but few will truly understand her because she speaks a language most have forgotten. the language of self-reclamation, of inner truth, of wild integrity. She is no longer fluent in performance. She speaks only what is real, and in that truth there is liberation. She no longer needs to be validated, saved, or solved. She is not a puzzle. She is not a project. She is a portal to everything sacred, sensual, sovereign. And those who approach her with reverence may glimpse a mystery that transforms them, but only if they too are willing to meet themselves. This is the path of the solitary woman, the mystic, the mirror, the myth breaker. She walks not because it is easy, but because it is true. She walks not away from love, but toward a deeper, wilder, more honest version of it. And in doing so, she calls others to remember who they are beneath the masks. So if you are a woman walking alone, know this: you are not lost. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are in the sacred chrysalis between who you were told to be and who you truly are. And this time, you will not emerge for anyone else. You will emerge for you. You are not alone in your aloneness. You are surrounded by a silent sisterhood, women across time and space who have dared to choose themselves, who have grieved, healed, remembered, who have walked through fire and came out with ash in their lungs and stars in their eyes. You are one of them, and we see you. Let the world misjudge you. Let them project their fears. You no longer belong to that world. You belong to the wild, to the mystery, to the pulse of your own truth. Every step you take in authenticity is a blessing for every woman still trapped in a life that is too small for her soul. Your solitude is not a sentence. It is a sanctuary, a school, a spell. Let it refine you. Let it undo what was never yours. Let it teach you the love that doesn't come from others, but from the sacred knowing that you are already whole, and when the time comes, if it comes, that love finds you again. Let it meet you as you are now, untamed, unapologetic, undone and remade by your own hands. Let it be worthy of the woman you've become, or let it pass. Because either way, you are already home. If this journey spoke to your soul, share your voice in the comments below. What has your solitude taught you? What spell have you broken by choosing yourself? And if you felt seen in these words, you are not alone. This channel is your sanctuary, a place where the sacred feminine is remembered, honored, and reborn. Subscribe and join us in this quiet revolution of soul. You are not too much. You are the medicine. You are not alone. You are the mirror. You are not broken. You are becoming.